Hey, good morning from my behalf. My name is Harri Kiljander and I come from a slightly bigger company than Solu. Maybe not a huge company, but anyway, at least a mid-sized company, F-Secure. And I assume most of you know F-Secure, so I probably won't be saying too many words about the company. It's an internet security and cyber security company that was established as a startup in 1988 and has been growing ever since that. And as part of that growth, we've been searching for ways to renew the company and introduce new sort of products, enter new markets. And one of the elements we've been using, we've been calling it internal startups. And some of those experiences I'm going to be talking about right now, and hopefully also you guys will raise some difficult questions for me and challenge my thinking. But it was really good to hear Christopher talking about things. Some of the things I fully agree, some of the things I may not completely agree with, but that's good. So that's me. I absolutely had to add a picture of my first computer because it's the earlier version of Christopher's computer because I'm slightly older, as you can see. So I'm currently leading the F-Secure Freedom VPN product team. And before that, long time ago, I studied computer science. Then I started to do information visualization, computer graphics also with that computer. Did animations, 3D animations, and then eventually started to do UI design. Then I joined Nokia at some point in the last millennium. I was doing UX concept design and leading design teams in the US and in Finland. Then I left the company when it came too big, too slow, too complicated, and joined F-Secure, a small company, only 1,000 people. And I was the design director for the company for 2 years, 3 years, and then at that point I decided that, hey, let's start to do something new. So instead of designing the user experience of products, I started to design complete products and new businesses. First with a product called Loki, which was a family location sharing service. Then the password manager key, and now this Freedom. Then on my sort of spare time, I'm a design advisor to a real startup and then also an advisor to a startup accelerator that's working in Berlin. So that's my background, and that's the computer. So let's start. John Chambers, who's I think he's the executive chairman of Cisco, has said somewhat recently that 40% of companies won't exist in a meaningful way in 10 years. So question to you, how many of you are working for a successful company? Raise your hand. So what are you doing here? Go back to your offices and continue the work if you are so successful. There's nothing here. So why did you come here? So in a way, jokes aside, I'm glad you're here because maybe even the big companies or bigger companies than Solu sometimes they learn that there's a necessity when it comes to starting to do something new. So big companies we represent, they are really good at doing the old because that has been the recipe for us to be successful. First we were startups somewhere. Maybe it was the paper mill by the Nokia River somewhere in the 19th century. Or maybe it was the small software house somewhere in the Helsinki, Espoo region called Data Fellows before it was called F-Secure. And gradually these companies, we've grown. We've found a way to create something that's adding so much value to our customers that the customers actually, they want to continue buying the stuff we make. And then we we keep on optimizing our processes. We keep on optimizing our internal structures. We keep on becoming even more efficient in whatever we do. And we are outrageously successful. But at some point then maybe there's something that happens on the outside, maybe it's something that happens in the garage of one of the employees of the company that becomes a need or trigger to start doing something new. And in the big companies, this can be kind of triggered by many things, like kind of there's a list of potential kind of triggers. So big structural changes, I think Nokia is a good example. What started as a paper mill, then kind of it was merged with the rubber factory. Then it went to cable manufacturing. Then Nokia started to kind of do electronics, then moved into telecommunications. There were televisions and all that stuff, consumer electronics. And then from telecommunications to mobile telephony. And obviously kind of we all are aware of kind of what Nokia has been, kind of what kind of transformations it has been going through. Then obviously kind of if there's a change, you can basically just kind of wait and see if, hey, maybe the change goes away. If there's resistance outside, let's wait and maybe after 2 years it's gone. Or Kodak has been used many times as an example. In I think it was 75, they built the world's first digital camera. But they didn't really understand what to do with it. And they kind of thought that, hey, yeah, this was cool, but let's keep on churning out this film and related kind of film processing services. And eventually kind of the company went bust. I think they are still, the brand exists and cameras do exist, but kind of what used to be something outrageously massive in the field of photography definitely doesn't exist any longer when it comes to Kodak. Changes based on a new vision and strategy. Most of us, when we work in the big companies, there's a strategy team or executive vice president of strategy. And that person is in charge of kind of thinking about the future direction of the company. Internal innovations, we've been trying several mechanisms to boost and drive these at F-Secure. So we've had these kind of at some point, everyone had the possibility of spending 1 day per month working in a small team, kind of hacking together something that feels really cool to that team. And then once a month the teams came together presenting what they had done. And kind of many times then the organization was struggling that, hey, there were cool ideas, but it was extremely difficult to push them through the system, the big company, because the big company had not been optimized to kind of embrace those new things. Mergers and acquisitions, well, we did F-Secure. Last year, we bought a cyber security consultancy company, and related to that, we also kind of adjusted our strategy a bit more towards cyber security. So we are trying to do things on a big scale as well. 3 Horizons, how many of you have heard about this? It's a McKinsey concept they introduced in one of their consultancy books a while ago. Basically, it's the way to analyze and model kind of the different phases of businesses in a big company. So the first horizon is the established business, where kind of the big company is really good in doing the old and kind of embracing the benefits of scale. That's basically the cash cow business that's funding these other activities. So the second horizon is the kind of the rapid growth businesses. It's the new things that are sort of already out through the door, and basically the company is experimenting whether those could become big things, new things. Maybe they have been kind of startups the big company has bought. Maybe it's kind of something the innovation team in the big company has developed, but it's not really a big business yet in the scale of that company. That's basically, for example, the space where my current team is working on at F-Secure. And then there's internal startups. Well, 3 horizons still the third horizon, it's then the kind of a really obscure work that's being done basically to explore potential new entries outside the existing kind of a comfort zone of the big company. So kind of seeking for growth in an area where the company is currently not operating at all. And then some companies are using the term internal startups to kind of describe the way of working, trying to work kind of as a real startup in the big company, trying to reap the benefits of the big company and trying to kind of avoid the inertia of the big company at the same time. And some of those examples I will be talking about. And hey, by the way, the slides are at SlideShare. You can find these, the presentation behind this link if you want. And I assume kind of also Harri will be sharing the material with you through some means at some point. Steve Blank was mentioned already. One of the kind of he was a serial entrepreneur in the US, and at some point felt that hey, he wants to start preaching the gospel. So if he has learned something, he wanted to start spreading the learnings, and has been writing some books about the kind of topic, and travels the world kind of talking about what he has learned. And he's defining a startup as an organization that actually is searching for repeatable and scalable business model. So actually, Steve Blank defines the startup in a way that actually the startup wants to grow big and old and kind of complex and slow. Because kind of he sees that the idea is to create meaningful business. A startup does not exist so that the founders could have fun. But basically kind of the startup exists so that it can build scalable, repeatable business out of whatever it's doing. And then there's Ries, who wrote the Lean Startup book in 2011, who defined startup as a human institution, and I think that's a good notion because it's all about people. And that's creating something. It's a new product, it's a new service under conditions of extreme uncertainty. So they don't know, that team doesn't know clearly yet who the audience is, what the problem is they are resolving, what the product or service is going to be, and what kind of a business they will be able to develop out of that. If it's kind of if the uncertainty is there, then it's really not the startup, because probably there's already someone else working in the same domain around the same problem. And Eric coined the idea of the lean startup loop, starting from someone has a vision, someone has or is able to pull together the ideas for the new something. The idea of the lean startup loop basically is to kind of or the lean startup can be seen as a learning organization, and the success of the startup comes from the possibility of actually kind of maximize the speed of this cycle. So the more you learn, the better your something is likely going to be. You have the vision, you have the ideas, you use the ideas to build something and build it super fast, in a rapid manner. You come up with a prototype, sometimes you can call it a minimum viable product. You push it out, you measure the reactions of your prospective customers or clients, you get data, and basically then based on the data, you can adjust what you are doing. You may have to adjust the product, you may have to adjust the technologies, you may have to adjust your target customers or customer segment. You have to adjust the marketing messages you're using. You have to adjust the business model. And the faster you can do this, the better. Because kind of most likely the ideas and the vision you had in the first place, those are wrong. Because you didn't know what you're going to be doing and how you can actually resolve this. Because you are doing something no one else has done before. So, based on some of the F-Secure experiences, at some point I pulled together 10 rules of successful internal startups, but I can't guarantee that they work. They have not completely worked at F-Secure. Some of the rules have kind of worked, some of the rules have not. And it's also definitely kind of a highly about contextual. So if something works in one context, it doesn't mean that you can repeat it as such in another context. The context in our case, in my case, has been these three products. Loki was the family location sharing service or application running in popular smartphones. And we developed it super fast. I was leading the initial concept design team, and then I kind of took the concept proposal to our company leadership team December 2012, and then the leadership team felt that, hey, this is great, let's bring the service out in mid-August the next year when the first graders go to school. And then I had a discussion with our CEO, Christian Fredriksson, about the way how this should be built. And Christian told to me, or said to me, work like a startup. And then I kind of was asking him that, hey, what do you mean work like a startup? And then he said, go figure. So, and some of the learnings then from that exercise we've been kind of iterating and utilizing in these other products. After Loki, eventually we kind of made a pivot. We open sourced the software, and the University of Helsinki is right now using it as a kind of a test bed. It's out there, you can install it in your Android phone, but it's not from F-Secure any longer. After Loki, I was leading a team working on a elegant and secure password manager called F-Secure Key. You can go to the App Store and install it. It's great. And now I'm leading the Freedom VPN product team. Also, Freedom is out. You can go to the App Store and install it. And these projects, Key and Freedom, had started already before I joined the teams. But kind of we've been really openly inside the company, been sharing the learnings of this internal startup way of working. Even some of the software source code has been shared between the products. So this is the context. Number one, the project, the internal startup, needs to have maximum control over the people, over the budget, over the process, over the technologies. And yes, I fully agree with Christopher. The first person you should hire is a designer if you are developing something for consumers. I've learned this the hard way over the last 20 years, and it's painful to see product teams who are trying to develop something for consumers without a designer. At some point they realize that, hey, something is deeply wrong, but then it's kind of they've lost lots of energy, time and money by that time. So hire a designer, and a designer is not an artist. Do not hire an artist. You need to hire a product designer, digital or physical, depending on what you do. When it comes to the staffing of the team in general, you should be, when you are leading this kind of an exercise, you should be in charge of the staffing. So basically kind of if you get the mandate from the top management to ramp up an internal startup, sometimes there's kind of really helpful people saying that, hey, we have this one guy, he's really great. And by the way, he sits in our St. Petersburg office. And yeah, we have these two guys who are working in Kuala Lumpur. Why don't you want to have those people in the team? It's way more efficient to have everyone in the same room, around the same whiteboard, around the same tables. Budget, one of the benefits of the big company, yes, there is money, but also kind of it's extremely helpful if you can trust that the money won't go away in a rapid manner. Process and technologies, we were struggling in the Loki exercise. We were kind of given some of the technologies by the company technology strategy. We were kind of grumbling, but we felt that, yeah, okay, let's use those. And then we actually had to make a technology pivot half a year later, kind of throwing away the stuff that was kind of given to us and rewriting the Android and iPhone applications with a different software framework, because simply the technologies that were the standard at F-Secure when we started, they just did not work for our type of an application. the big thing here, top level sponsor. If you are doing a new thing in a big company, at some point things will get really complicated, and you kind of the priorities will collide, budgets will be questioned, and someone somewhere else in the organization will raise a red flag that, hey, these cowboys are doing something or everything completely wrong. And if you don't have the top level sponsor, then probably someone else in the upper management will say that, hey, yeah, let's stop this. This is just noise, and it won't deliver anything. And at least at F-Secure with these exercises, there's always been a top level sponsor, and definitely it's something that's extremely useful. Then in a big organization, it's a kind of there's pros and cons of the big organization, and you will be depending on some of the kind of stakeholder teams. It's a massive asset. If you need access to a lawyer, and when you are working in a small startup, you have to pay for those hours when you are talking with a lawyer. If you're working in a big organization and you need access to a lawyer, you walk to their team room and you don't have to pay anything. Well, maybe you bring them some candy or coffee, but that's it. And when we were building Loki, we did not have a full-time product marketing person in the team, so we were relying on the company digital marketing team. And at some point their kind of priorities changed, so the digital marketing budget that was reserved for Loki went away, and the other person kind of went away. Well, then kind of in secrecy, she promised to help us, but she did not want to tell that to her manager. But still, we didn't have the money, and that did create some hassle then. So if you and when you need to rely on someone outside the internal startup, the target setting should be kind of aligned if possible. In big companies, big companies do many things, and they are quite good in kind of doing many things simultaneously. And in a small internal startup, you should really have kind of a strong focus on the one thing you are doing. If you have a star developer in your team, and I hope you have a star developer in your team, probably in the big company that person has lots of connections, and maybe someone is expecting that the person needs to attend a weekly or monthly kind of a technology roadmap or technology strategy session. Or the startup kind of a leader may be expected to attend a weekly kind of a half-a-day management team meeting somewhere else. And all that time and investment is out of the thing the internal startup should be focusing on. So kind of cutting those dependencies definitely will help the likelihood of success for the internal startup. Unrealistic schedules. I'm a firm believer in unrealistic schedules and unrealistic targets. They should not be completely out of the planet, but if you set 100% targets, probably you will be reaching 80%. And but if you set 200% targets, probably you will reach 120%. And like the Loki exercise in December 2012, it was decided that we'll go out mid-August the following year. And basically it meant that the two software engineers in the team at some point realized that, hey, they will not be having any summer vacation. And but they were kind of really proud of being able to work full-time through the summer, because one of the developers, actually his daughter was starting school in August, and he definitely wanted her daughter to be able to use the app in her phone when he goes to school. We had to kind of overcome some kind of difficulties with the HR team, because kind of you have this kind of hour reporting and following system in a big company, and we kind of decided that we will not be following our working hours. Physical co-location, I spoke about that already. The team, this is something I learned that we did it completely wrong way at Nokia. I'm not sure what Nokia is doing nowadays, or Microsoft, but at least in Nokia, when you were creating a new phone, the god or goddess of the new product development exercise was a person called program manager, who was an Uber project manager. And I think it's completely wrong, because you are not selling to the customers a project, you are selling a product. So the product manager or the product person should be leading a new product or service creation exercise. At some point, some of my colleagues at Nokia felt really frustrated, product manager colleagues. One guy from Texas, when I was working in the US, said that he has now tried to analyze the kind of responsibilities in the new product development. We were working on the communicators. Some of you may still remember the big clunky things that had a small keyboard and could access internet before mobile internet was born. And he had found out that his only responsibility in a way was to design or define what goes into the product sticker that's behind the battery inside the communicator, and he was the product manager. So the product manager should be leading an exercise where you are creating a new thing. It should not be a project manager. I kind of have full respect towards project managers, but they are like the COO. Their mission in life is to ensure that the thing gets done, but it's the product person whose mission in life to ensure is that we are doing the right thing for our customers. And yes, the product manager needs to go out of the building. Sometimes in a big company there's a separate team that's then doing the launch, and there's a separate team that's handling the customer support. But when you are developing a new thing in an internal startup, one of the big things is and was that you want to learn as fast as possible. And the more kind of broken telephones you have in that learning process, the worse. So the team itself, the internal startup, needs to be able to push the product or the service out there on the market to collect feedback and to learn from the feedback. Lots of buzzwords: minimum viable product, build, measure, learn, keep it simple. Yes, all of this is good, but there's really no dogmas. Don't expect that something that's written in a book is exactly the right thing for you, because the contexts will be different. And yes, sometimes people get mad when you step over their toes and kind of break existing processes. This has happened to me at F-Secure. This happened to me at Nokia. And then kind of people I respect a lot professionally have been screaming at me, and after they have been screaming, they've said that if they were in the same position, they would do exactly the same thing. So in a way, people do understand, sort of. And when you're working in a big company, it's not your internal startup, it's not the one and only internal startup. So share the lessons, share the learnings with these other teams as well. It's extremely crucial. How many of you have seen these books, the Lean Startup or the Escape Velocity? They are pretty good. So you could kind of go out and buy those and read those if you have not read them. But last but not least, I'm getting close to the end of the presentation. Would you like to read about internal startups at Osuuspankki, General Electric, Tieto, Supercell, F-Secure, and Kentinel, which is a software company? If you want to learn about what kind of mistakes we in these companies have made, if you want to read about really hands-on practical recipes for return on investment, how to kind of overcome bureaucracy, what to do with staffing and incentives, how to kind of establish management sponsors, how to do pivots or how to do an exit, how to scale inside a big company, how to overcome the big company kind of things that are slowing you down, and kind of how to utilize the big company boosters. All of this is now available for free because we wrote a book. And you can go to this address via the short link down there, or you can shoot the QR code. The book will be actually launched in 3 weeks' time in Helsinki. We wrote it in a digile project with some companies, people from Tieto, Osuuspankki, F-Secure and elsewhere, and some people from the academia as well. And it's pretty good. And this is actually now the soft launch. We haven't kind of it went live actually earlier this week, and we haven't been promoting this yet. So it's out there, no strings attached. You don't have to pay anything. Just kind of download it, read it, and let us know if there's good things in the book. That's it.